Welcome, I'm Karen Field Bullock, and this is lesson number 5 in my course, A Spiritual Path to True Love. Currently, we're in the middle of a segment called Love and Love's Opposites. Earlier in this segment, I've defined some of love's opposites. Love's polar opposite, its existential opposite, 3 of love's spiritual opposites, and one type I call a shadow opposite. As I've explained, some of these are true opposites and others are partial opposites. I've also defined love in an original way. And then last time I built on that concept by reviewing several types or forms of love. Today I'd like to talk more about what love is, this time by identifying different elements and expressions of love. At the end, I'll expand on the concept of shadow opposites. Elements and expressions of love. The most common expressions of love are verbal, like saying I love you or writing a love letter, and physical, like hand-holding, kissing, hugging, and sex. Words of love and making love can be incredibly powerful ways to express desire, affection, tenderness, sympathy, and more. And yet, people can also hide behind words and actions. Of course, people can lie about love, and people have sex for all sorts of reasons. Offering a gift or card on Valentine's Day is another common expression of love that may be heartfelt, or it may represent a sense of obligation or a con. It's only through sensing the motivation behind the gesture that the person can judge whether love is real. That's why if you want to express your heartfelt love without feeling like a human cliche, a dupe, or a robot repeating what you've been taught to say, it's a good idea to broaden your awareness about elements and expressions of love. In the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, author John Gray introduced 12 elements of love. They are trust, care, acceptance, understanding, appreciation, respect, admiration, validation, approval, reassurance, encouragement, and devotion. He also said that at least in hetero relationships, men and women prefer different ones. According to Gray, men have a greater need to feel trusted, accepted, appreciated, admired, approved of, and encouraged. Women, on the other hand, have a greater need to feel cared for, understood, respected, validated, reassured, and to be the object of devotion. In my experience, I think there's a lot to this. But I noticed that some of these ideas are a little deeper than they sound. Take trust, for instance. You can trust people in different ways. If you put all your trust in your partner and then your partner lets you down in a way that hurts you, you can always switch over to trusting that your partner was trying his or her best. Everyone makes mistakes. Most of us get in over our head when we're trying to juggle too many balls in the air. And many of us can get subverted from fulfilling our best intentions when we suddenly experience inner conflicts that we've been trying to push away. But over time, a high level of trust needs to be earned through reasonably consistent behavior. If it seems that your partner doesn't try his or her best very often, you can then switch over and trust that your partner is being who he or she really is at that moment. In that case, maybe you misjudged your partner to begin with. As Oprah Winfrey famously says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Still, that doesn't mean your partner is lazy or deficient. It just means that something needs to change, either in your awareness or their behavior. You may have perceived your partner's potential self rather than your partner's actual level of development. Or maybe your partner feels conflicted because of something you're doing or not doing that you don't even realize. And you need to assume good intentions of each other while you work out your issues together. So the idea is to adjust your expectations of your partner according to what your partner has proven to be and according to you and what you've proven to be. That way you can stop demanding that your partner do for you what, for whatever reason, your partner isn't ready, willing, or able to do so far in the relationship for him or herself. Your partner may not be as evolved as you are and may not have the capacity to understand you in some ways. Your partner may lack the ability to do what you think he or she should know how to do. Your partner may not see the world as you do. Or your partner may lack the self understanding and self acceptance to even know why he or she lets you down. And without that clarity, your partner can't be forthcoming about his or her motivations. Another element of love that's pretty deep is respect. It's natural to respect people who will take a big risk and achieve something great as a result. It may be less natural, but equally important to respect your partner's freedom of choice, even if you don't respect the choice itself. Spiritually, we all have the right to exercise free will, because if we didn't, then making good choices would be just mechanical, and that wouldn't build character. In another sense, if you don't respect a person's power to harm or destroy you, you may one day run out of luck. Furthermore, if you don't respect your partner's limitations, you may end up demanding and thereby shaming and humiliating your partner every time you demand that he or she do something that's actually outside the framework of his or her limits or reality map. When shame turns to rage, your partner may get mad enough to exert the power needed to harm or destroy you. So there you have 4 types of respect. One that's earned by good efforts and good results. One that's a spiritual human right to exercise free will, including the right to make mistakes or to be selfish. And one that's based on destructive power. And one that's based on compassionate acceptance of a person's individual and human limitations. If you can't always experience the most positive type of respect for your partner, you can and should switch off to the free will based type of respect and to the others where they apply. Similarly, devotion has multiple meanings. You might be devoted to your partner's happiness, but if your partner becomes perpetually unhappy anyway, you can shift to being devoted to understanding your partner's feelings and needs to a point while refocusing on building your own happiness. Doing so in a balanced way may help your partner find a better outlook by imitating your healthy attitude. However, devotion to your partner's happiness and your own might, in the end, come down to letting go of the relationship and allowing your partner to move on so that you can both find happiness elsewhere. Another expert on love, Leo Buscaglia, wrote a book entitled Love, What Life is All About. In that book, he said there are 1,000 paths to loving. Everyone will find his own way if he listens to himself. This quote highlights that the way people express love often involves a creative process. Buscaglia and other love experts have also pointed out that people learn about what love is and how to express it from their culture. There's a television documentary series put together by Christiane Amanpour and her team that addresses this very issue. It's called Sex and Love Around the World, and it features a number of different cultures with different views, customs, and attitudes toward what love is and how to express it. In many cultures, simple elements of love identified by John Gray are built into our language through customary expressions of common courtesy. For example, as a child, you probably learned to say the so-called magic words, please and thank you. If you think about that for a minute, please signifies respect, and thank you is a way of expressing appreciation, 2 elements of love identified by Gray. Another simple way we learn to show love from a young age is to pay someone a compliment or accept a compliment. Paying someone a compliment, if sincere, is a way of expressing admiration, validation, encouragement, or reassurance. On the receiving side, accepting a compliment from someone is a way of allowing yourself to feel admired, validated, encouraged, or reassured. And if you trust that the compliment was sincere, Accepting the compliment graciously is a way of expressing trust. In Western cultures, traditional social structures for dating also contain elements of love. For example, a man's behavior on an old fashioned traditional date with a woman, if he follows the rules, is filled with small courtesies designed to express respect for her desires and preferences. Also, if he listens politely as she talks, he is implicitly expressing that he cares about and respects her thoughts and feelings. A woman's behavior on a date with a man, if she is receptive within the rules of courtesy, is designed to show that she trusts him to keep her safe and that she accepts and appreciates his choice of restaurant or event for the date. Today, as the roles of gender have switched around quite a bit, these courtesies can work both ways. Today, there are lots of online dating and relationship coaches, especially on YouTube. Most speak from direct experience, and many are professional experts. Some talk to women about what men want, and some talk to men about what women want. Because with all the gender changes going on in the last 30 to 50 years, many of us don't know anymore. Some coaches may sound superficial, but I've found several who are very enlightening, whether you're concerned with dating or already in a long term relationship, especially if you want to understand the opposite sex in a new way. Eric Fromm wrote that love is mostly expressed by giving of yourself in the sense of an expression of your aliveness, not giving based on some unnecessary self deprivation or martyrdom. I think this amounts to being totally awake and aware in the present moment when you spend time with the person you love. Within that experience, I believe that simply paying attention to people without overdoing it is a good expression of love. Also, sharing humor is a specific way to give of yourself that strengthens your bonds. Further, one of the most powerful ways to express love is to listen to others talk. People usually feel validated and accepted when they feel they've been truly seen and heard. And often they feel appreciated and respected as well. If you listen patiently with interest in the speaker, as well as the speaker's words and ideas, and with an open heart, not quick to judge or compete or correct, the speaker might even feel cared for. And if you converse with people in ways that respect their limitations, ask non judgmental questions, or add to their understanding in ways that they're ready to hear, they will feel grateful and blessed by your presence. Unfortunately, the reverse is also true. Using poor listening skills can make the speaker feel very unloved, and this can be a major problem in many relationships. Finally, when you talk to others about things that interest you, your listeners will feel more loved if you stay aware of their nonverbal feedback to be sure you're not talking over their heads or boring them or otherwise taxing their patience. Now back to shadow opposites. In the last lesson, I talked about how when a type of love is missing from your otherwise loving relationship, partners sense a loss. This could be a couple who lose their passion and gradually become friends without benefits. It could be a flirtatious and fun-loving relationship that lacks maturity. Or it could be a passionate relationship between people who don't really like each other as friends. The same principle applies to elements of love that are missing. For example, if appreciation is missing, the unappreciated partner feels taken for granted. If respect is missing, the disrespected partner is resentful. And if trust is missing, arguments may flare up frequently. To deal with the types or elements of love that are missing, couples tend to either ignore and dismiss the problem or else bring up their grievances. Ignoring problems related to love means that painful wounds leave lasting emotional scars that never really heal. I believe that grievances and bringing up grievances is the start of the grief process, described by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. This begins with denial. You may think, "What? Did you just say that?" Next comes anger, which you might express or control. You might think, "What the? Why don't you ever fill in the blank?" Or why do you always fill in the blank? In the third stage, you try bargaining. For example, you try to explain to your partner what you need and want, and then you try to give your partner something in return, just like any bargain. Sometimes this works, and you can resolve the problem and avoid the rest of the grief process. But if your partner refuses your bargain, then you might try removing perks or inflicting punishments. If that doesn't work, the fourth stage of grief is depression. Depression happens when you realize your arguments and bargaining and negotiating attempts are still not working, and you don't see a way to ever make your dreams come true in the relationship. Some people stay in this stage and live out their days together by caving in and giving up on their dreams, moping around feeling sorry for themselves, having little spats or making sarcastic wisecracks, no longer expecting to find the happiness they originally hoped for. The final stage of grief is to accept the loss. And the best way to accept it is to redirect your dreams, not let them die. You might invest your dreams in other relationships, such as friendships, or you might hope for a new love relationship to come along. Essential element of love. Every love relationship of any type has a sort of profile, something like your strengths and weaknesses in your relationship. But every love relationship starts with one thing, and that's compassion, basic goodwill, care, or agape as its foundation. The 20th century psychologist and author Rollo May said something very similar. In talking about romantic love in a general sense, he said that the care we extend to our partner is the most fundamental element of love and is what gives the relationship meaning. So you can respect and admire someone, but if you don't really care about them deeply, if they don't mean that much to you, it probably isn't love. Or you can accept and appreciate someone, and you can encourage and validate them, but if you don't really care that much about them personally, if they don't mean that much to you, it isn't love. And in the Bible, Paul the Apostle, or Saul of Tarsus, putative author of Corinthians 1 in the Christian Bible, made this point in chapter 13. He said, "Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not jealous. It does not put on airs. It is not snobbish. Love is never rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not prone to anger. Neither does it brood over injuries. Love does not rejoice in what is wrong, but rejoices with the truth. There is no limit to love's forbearance, to its trust, its hope, its power to endure." Now, most of us aren't that perfect in our compassion. And when you're in a deeply personal, true love relationship, this degree of compassionate love is a tall order because that type of relationship is so complex. But patient and kind love, or compassion and caring, is still at the core of a true love relationship and something to remember and strive for. The other basic element needed for true love is obviously intense attraction. In lesson number 6, I will explain how compassion and passionate attraction function as dynamic opposites within the relationship when you fall in love. Until then, I've listed some readings below for anyone interested. So, bye for now.